Is it smart to invest in a condo here in the GTA? Let's talk about it. Not to speak on all areas, but for the most part, areas that are very popular and in high demand, like Vaughan, Toronto, even areas like Richmond Hill and Markham, those type of areas, it's actually pretty tough, believe it or not, to get a positive cash flow when you're a landlord and you're looking for a profit every month. So as a landlord, you should want to target somewhat of a profit. And by profit, I mean if your mortgage payment and maintenance fees and also annual property tax cost you X amount per month, you should at least want to at least get some type of profit every month when you're renting it out, or at the very least, break even. But for the most part, condos are so expensive here in those areas, specifically those areas, because I don't want to speak about areas that are north or whatever that might be cheaper. But those areas are so expensive that even though the rent is good, you're not even making a profit, let alone breaking even in most cases, especially when you consider older condos being more expensive for maintenance fees costing more and situations like maybe needing more money for upkeep and stuff like that. So as a landlord, you really have to ask yourself if the monthly fees that you're paying for mortgage and stuff like that I mentioned earlier is going to give you a situation where you can at least profit for what you're collecting per month. And that's where it's pretty tough in this market. For anybody who's looking at investing in a condo here in the GTA, my advice would be look at the long-term game. And I've spoke about this in previous videos if you want to check those out. But just to briefly touch on that, the long-term game would be don't look at the short-term profit because you're not going to find it, at least in most cases, where you're looking at making X amount more per month than what the rent is. Like I mentioned earlier, you're not going to be able to find that for what rent is costing, plus what the mortgage payments and stuff, how high the interest rates are. It's tough to find a situation where profit short term is going to convince you to want to make that investment. So you have to look long term, pay down the mortgage, maybe look at market value going up as time goes by. But you really have to consider like areas like Vaughan, where a lot of condo buildings are being built. You're going to be a little bit saturated in certain pockets like Jane and Rutherford, Jane and Highway 7, anywhere along Highway 7. They're starting to get a little bit congested with the amount of inventory that's coming to market, which is good because we need inventory to come to satisfy the amount of buyers that are out there. But at the same time too, if you're already owning a condo in those areas, you can't help but question whether the price of those condos is going down because of the amount of condos that are being built. So that's going to be something that is something I'm going to be watching for as these condos get built and as time passes, where certain landlords can't hold on to them for much longer, or certain investors can't hold on to these units for much longer, where you may see condos sell for less than what is anticipated. And that might cause a domino effect and a snowball effect for what's to come. So keep an eye on that. These condos are not yet built when you're talking about areas like Highway 7. So there's really no stats to show at the moment. But when it does happen, anybody who invested years before might be left in a situation where hopefully you can hold on to the condo, but there's no guarantee that you're going to be seeing a profit anytime soon. Let's talk about the cost that's needed when you're buying a condo, because those are the kind of things that investors are looking for when you're thinking about making that investment. So if you're making an investment into a condo, first things first, you need 20% down. So calculate that as a down payment. Next thing you need is the land transfer tax, which again, in areas like Toronto, you're paying double. In areas outside of Toronto, you're still paying a nice chunk. So make sure that you're calculating that. And then just overall closing costs, lawyer fees, and things like that. But these are going to be fees that you have to account for because the numbers have to make sense. So make sure that you're calculating all these things, because when you're making the numbers, when you're counting it towards the rent and things like that, these are the things you have to account for, because this is going to be money out of your pocket versus other investment situations that you might have decisions to make on stocks or certain investment packages, whatever it's going to be when you're deciding to purchase those versus a condo investment. The real question is it worth buying a condo in pre-construction, or is it better to really consider the resale? Personally, I would guide clients towards the resale right now, because at least you know what you're getting. Pre-construction, it's a gamble. You might benefit down the road, but those are the two things you have to really account for, especially if you're an investor. You have to leave room for that HST that I've mentioned quite a bit on this channel. But there's certain things that are in place that really are negative factors when you're talking about investors and what makes investments for condos appealing. So really consider those things. But again, if you're really debating between pre-construction and resale, nothing's really moving these days in pre-construction. So the resale to me is the easier choice, especially being able to negotiate the price down when you're buying from a seller who's bought previous years ago that can make sense of a profit versus a builder that's up against the cost and doesn't have room to negotiate. And the last thing I want to mention is why senior condo buildings might be the best investment in today's market. So when you're dealing with senior condo buildings, what I mean is condo buildings that are most appealing to the senior market. And that might be very, very appealing because when people, let's say who are seniors, 60 plus, and they're selling their 2-story homes or their larger home that they can't maintenance anymore, these type of properties as condominiums, they are what usually seniors are going to target, aside from bungalows, obviously because bungalows are a lot more expensive. But senior buildings like Villa Giardino, the Amalfi over in Vaughan, like there's certain options that seniors have that can be around other seniors within a building that kind of feels like a retirement home, but they're buying a condo unit inside of a building rather than renting where you would in a retirement home. So these type of situations are very appealing for investors because that the people who are buying are cash heavy. They sold their previous property and they have a lot of money on hand. They're downsizing, so they're obviously pocketing a lot of money. But also too, when you're renting out to these type of people, that they're going to take care of your property because they've come from a home that they've lived in for X amount of years, and that's all that they've been used to is taking care of their current home. So they're not going to treat your home like trash because it's built in them. At least for the majority, that's what you expect, where the routines are built in them to be able to take care of a property. And also too, you're not going to really get any situations of, things like if it's a younger tenant, worrying about trashing the place, things like that, not paying. These are all things that allow you as a landlord to feel confident in your investment. And when you're investing, again, you're banking on a lot of things to happen in your way, but when you're investing in situations that you can at least somewhat control the outcome best way possible, that allows you to give you a little bit of peace of mind for what I mentioned earlier. So senior buildings, again, you might even be able to get them at a better cost because they're not as upgraded or modernized where you can get, certain prices that make sense. But make sure that you're really looking towards that as a possibility for reasons that I mentioned earlier, and also for possible increase of market value that might happen as more seniors sell their places and just decide to rent instead of buying a place, for reasons like they don't really want to, own a home at a certain age or things like that. So possibilities are there. It's actually a lot more positive. So if any of you guys are looking for certain condo buildings that match this certain criteria, let me know. I'd be happy to share some buildings that I know that I've done business in that are very good for having reputable tenants and great people to be able to trust with your investment. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to this channel or leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Or you can even share this to a friend if you know that they're thinking about investing in a condo. I'd love to help any of you guys who are looking for real estate help. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can follow me on my Instagram. It's anthony.detoma, or you can contact me direct. My phone number is below. Appreciate every single one of you guys, and until next time.